Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and I have another fun Easter card to share with you guys using the new Lawn Fawn Chirpy Chirp Chirp stamp set that I just showed in my last crazy haul video. So I pulled out the stamp set and got all the little birdies onto acrylic blocks. I've had people point out I tend to have a lot of acrylic blocks, and yes, I do. I've been doing this for a lot of years, and I also used to use these a lot when I did product videos for other companies. So I've built up quite the collection, and it just speeds up the process, but it's totally unnecessary. People don't need as many as I've got. I just like having them now because it does speed up the process. So anyway, I stamped all the images onto Nina Classic Crest Solar White cardstock with Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink. And then I colored them all in with Copic markers. I didn't do anything too special. I find that images like this tend to just look nice, basically just colored in a solid color. So I did a little bit of shading. I went from darkest to lightest, and I used, for the little birdies themselves, I used Y38, Y19, Y08, and then Y04, just to blend everything together. And I will have the colors I used listed at the end. And then for their little beaks and feet, I just used YR09 and then a little bit of YR04. And then for the little bunny ear hats, which I absolutely adore, I just think they're the cutest things ever. I started with some C2 and then realized I was off camera, so I moved that back up. And then I used C0 to blend that a bit. And then I just took my colorless blender, the 0, and blended that even more. And then I took a little bit of R20 to do the pinks on the ears, and I just lightly flicked that in, starting at the base of the ears, so it just kind of fades out. And then for the basket, I just added a tiny bit of E11, and that was it. Nothing too fancy. And then I've got the coordinating die set, so I used some Post-it tape to hold all the dies in place. And all the birds I was able to cut in the one hat and the one basket in one pass, and then just ran it through a couple more times to cut out the remaining hats and that remaining little basket. And then I cut some white cardstock with a large circle die from My Favorite Things. And then I cut another piece of green cardstock with the circle die. And then I used one of my favorite things. This is the Tall Grassy Edges Dynamics. So I die cut that from some gumdrop green cardstock. And then I'm going to set that aside. And I just grabbed some scratch paper. This is the Simon Says Stamp Grid paper, just to keep ink from getting all over my surface, because when I do things like this, I tend to get ink everywhere, and then I smear it on things and I ruin things. So scratch paper is the bomb. So I sponged some tumbled glass distress ink onto the white piece of cardstock, and then that grassy edges piece that I die cut, I ended up actually die cutting a second little scrap with it, and then I put it into my spray box, as I like to call it. And then I took it outside and I just sprayed the back of each of those pieces with some spray adhesive, and adhere them both together, and then press those onto that die cut circle that I'd sponged that little bit of tumbled glass ink onto. So then it's got all the little pieces at the ends of the grass. I wanted those adhered flat to this. And then in that little Chirpy Chirp set is this cute little butterfly base. So I stamped that with some orange fizz dye ink from My Favorite Things. And then there's the little outlines of the butterfly as well. So I stamped those in the same black ink as I used for all the images. And then I adhered two of the birds and their little hats in the one little basket with just some multimedia matte adhesive. And then I cut a frame from some pattern paper. This is from the My Favorite Things Dots and Stripes Sorbet pack. So I die cut this frame with their stitched circle scalloped frame dynamics. This is the largest one. It's quite a big circle. And I squeezed more of the multimedia matte around the edge. And I had die cut a clear transparency with that same circle die I used to create the scene. And I adhered that with that multimedia matte adhesive, because I wanted to create a shaker card. So this trick I picked this up from Christina Warner, who I think picked it up from one of her subscribers. She showed this, I think, back several months ago, and I showed it in one of my videos too. But I took my foam, my Scotch foam tape, and I cut a thin strip of it, and then if you take the backing off, you're able to manipulate it around a circle like this, which is awesome, because I always used to avoid doing circle shaker cards for this very reason. It's such a pain to line up, all the foam adhesive, make sure there's no gaps. It takes forever, and I was like, I don't have time for this. But this way, this literally took me a couple minutes I did 2 layers, and adhered that, and then I set that aside, and I put the sequins right on top of the main image just to make it easier to line everything up when I put the frame. But honestly, with something like this, I could have put the sequins just inside the shaker frame as it was, and then turned the main image over and lined up. It wouldn't have mattered, but this is just how I did it. So I put in several different kinds of sequins in the orange, yellow, and green color combo I was going for. This is for the color throwdown challenge for this week, which I will have linked on my blog along with the inspiration image. So then I cut down a piece of Orange Fizz cardstock, and there's this little tiny like flower type image in the stamp set. So I inked it up with Hero Arts Unicorn white ink and just stamped that around the perimeter where you're actually going to see it. And then my card base itself is heavyweight Nina Classic Crest 110-pound cardstock, and it was cut to 4 1/4 by 8 1/2 and scored at 4 1/4, so it's going to be a 4 1/4 inch square card. And in that same little Chirpy Chirp Chirp stamp set is this awesome little grass image, which I love because you can stamp it multiple times along the base of anything, and you're not going to be able to tell where it started and ended, so it's perfect. So I stamped that along the bottom of the inside of the card with MFT's Gumdrop Green dye ink, and then I stamped the Chirpy Chirp Chirp sentiment with the same Orange Fizz ink I used on the front. And then another great thing about this set is all those little like translation and then coordinating words. They have flat edges on the stamps, so you can bump them up together perfectly. So they line up all nicely. So I stamped that with the black ink, and then I adhered this remaining little birdie and the hat and the basket to the inside. And then adhered the Orange Fizz cardstock that I had stamped earlier to the outside, and I just used my Tombow Monomulti adhesive for that. And then I got a whole bunch more adhesive onto the shaker and adhered that. And as a final step, because I couldn't leave well enough alone, is I grabbed my AmyR's. This is the green check 3/8-inch gingham ribbon that I just used on my last card that I posted on here. And since it was sitting out, I had to use it. So I just tied it in a bow. And then to attach it to the card, I squeezed a generous amount of the multimedia mat onto it and just made sure to press this to the paper of the frame and not to the clear transparency. Otherwise, it wouldn't adhere. So I put an acrylic block on top to hold it, and I just set it aside to dry for, I don't know how long. I went off and made my kids supper and all that sort of thing. So once it was fully dry, it is stuck in place. And that finishes off this fun little shaker card. So hopefully you guys can kind of hear the sound. Not sure if it sound shows up or not. But anyway, if you're interested in any of the supplies used, the color challenge, anything like that, I will have links below the video in the description box. I'll have a link to my blog post. I'll have links to the supplies used. All that sort of information is down below. Thank you all so much for watching, subscribing, and thumbs upping my videos. And I will see you all next time. Bye.